This isn't criticism. This is absolute denial. The Snyder Bros, the Snyder Cult, whatever you want to call them, have lost their minds because they cannot get out of their way when they see a post from Zack Snyder highlighting the idea that there's a possibility of Snyderverse coming back. They lose their minds and think, oh, it's a possibility. And this week, Zack Snyder decided to share another photo, another image of his old universe. And it's pretty pathetic, if you ask me. At this point in time, how can it not be pathetic? That's right. Just a couple days ago, Zack Snyder shared a photo of Ben Affleck's Batman from a reel of film, it appears. He says, Batman, seeing this frame projected in IMAX makes the difference immediately clear. The retained detail and physical scale of the image are overwhelming in person. Look, we talked about this weeks, maybe months ago, on what Zack Snyder is actually doing here. This isn't about bringing back the Snyderverse, and yet people love to say when they see these photos, when they see these images on Instagram, oh, this must mean that he's hinting to something. It must mean that. But take a look at the photos on his Instagram posts. Okay, first off, we see he has multiple photos. He has some DC photos and he has some non-DC photos. And if we take a closer look, we see a non-DC photo has only 10,000 likes, but his DC photo has 40. You see a DC photo with 60, a non-DC with 11, a DC photo with 70, a non-DC with 24. This one I think is pretty interesting though, because this is the one we talked about a couple days ago, where it's him showing off these pots, but in the background it has the Dark Knight Returns book, but nobody really liked it because it only has 8,000 likes, which I think is kind of hilarious. And then you have the big one, which is Henry Cavill with 350,000 likes. But if you go through, you will see that the Snyderverse ones have far more likes than the non-Snyderverse ones. You can see why he's doing it. He does it specifically to get the likes on Instagram, and to get the follows and get the clout and the excitement around him. That's what he's doing. It's pretty simple. And the sad part is it kind of goes over to other social medias then. Because you have people like South Cali Guy 87, who unfortunately I was a fan of his a while ago. He was on my Bridging to Geekdom show a couple times. And he was a stand-up guy. He's a smart guy, but he has unfortunately fallen victim to this obsession, to this mind worm that just kind of takes him and takes all of these people and just kind of twists them into being ridiculous is probably the best way to put it. But he shared a superhero hype article that says Ben Affleck's unseen Batman IMAX photos revives Justice League 2 hopes. Where? Where does it do that? First off, I'm upset at superhero hype for this. It's time that these outlets get called out because they're just playing into the toxicity that this is. You are playing into giving false hope, playing into giving these fans an idea that, oh, look, an outlet's talking about it. This must be real. But it's not. The problem is nobody is going to Zack Snyder and asking him the questions. And that's a problem. South Cali Guy says this will never end and DC will continue to suffer for it until they learn how to finish what they started. The problem is DC Studios isn't the one that finished it. Warner Brothers Discovery isn't the one that finished it. David Zaslav, James Gunn, Peter Safran, they weren't the ones that caused the Snyderverse to end in 2017. That happened under somebody else's watch. It's not their duty to fix the problems and the sins of the past. The sins of the father, have you? It's not their job. It's just not. Now, some might say, well, it's the same. It's not the same company. It's a completely different company now. And that's the problem. None of these people can get it in their heads that, well, perhaps these guys have their own thing that they want to do. These artists artistic integrity. They have a thing they want to do. They have the right to do that. You don't need to be mad at them. You don't need to be pissed off at these people because they did nothing wrong. But I'm sorry. These Snyder fans, bros, cults, whatever you want to call them, are just too idiotic to understand that. It's true. It's true. He shared his own. He retweeted, reposted his own tweet or post with another post saying, "Love when they start talking about a Snyderverse sequel, especially Justice League 2, because his play Trucos says Ben Affleck Batman Returns in a new IMAX photo, surprising fans." And it says, "Speculation about future of Justice League 2. The director's post brought fans back into the conversation about a possible Snyderverse sequel." No, it did not. It's clearly a photo from Batman v Superman in the warehouse sequence. But again, a lot of these outlets, a lot of these wannabe websites, they want to find a way into the conversation and get on the good graces of these Snyder fans for some reason. And it doesn't make any sense because that is the toxic side of the DC fandom. They're the ones you don't want to side with. I can promise you that. And then you see things over on other social medias. You got this Randy guy on Facebook saying, boycotting James Gunn's DCU will not only show your support for the Snyderverse, but it will save you a lot of money. Well, first off, no, it's not going to show your support for the Snyderverse. I'm going to tell you something here. DC Studios, Warner Brothers, if you don't spend that money, they're not going to know who you are. They don't know who you are and why you're not spending the money. They couldn't care less if you're not spending the money. I mean, they're a little upset, like, man, we want more people to spend money, but they're not going to know why you're not spending the money. They're not going to know that it's because you want the Snyderverse. But not only that, if you do make it known, they're just going to laugh in your face anyway because they have no intention of going back to that. And then you bring up the second point here of, but it will save you a lot of money. Well, you're darn tootin'. You're darn tootin' it's going to save you a lot of money because, yes, the DCU is going to go on for quite some time, for years to come. So you're not going to be seeing a lot of movies. There's a lot of movies you're not going to be watching. Lots and lots of movies. So, yeah, if you don't go to see them, you sure are going to save a lot of money. Sure are. But, you have people then on the Twitters and things like that as well, into the Snyderverse. We need this quality back, who claims that we're not going to get this kind of quality with the DCU, which makes no sense because we are technically one project in at this point. Sure, we're going to have Supergirl and Lantern's Clayface coming this year, but, I mean, 2 projects because Peacemaker, I'm sorry. But, I mean, even with just 2 projects, live action that is, it was one director, one vision, one person. It lands for some people. I'm a James Gunn fan, so I liked his projects. But it very well could be that this type of quality will show up in one of the next 3 projects. You don't know. And people want to sit there and be taken seriously by saying stupid stuff like this. This is why the studio doesn't care when you say restore the Snyderverse. And I love to take a look at other people that I've seen pop up, the quote-unquote people who act like they're important in the spectrum of the Snyder fandom. People like the Lethal Geeks who all of a sudden feel like they're a big deal in the Snyder fandom, and we know they're not. But they decided to share this New Geeks post the other day. And they said, stop what you're doing and tell me that Zack's recent Instagram post means nothing. Go ahead, I dare you. He said, sound on. Frank Sinatra, listen to the lyrics. This is my quest so that honor and justice may live. First off, this is Zack Snyder. In his post, he says, hanging with a buddy. His comic collection is beyond Action Comics #1. He's holding comics. Like, that's what he's doing. So, what do you mean this is him saying something? What do you mean this means anything? It doesn't mean a damn thing. You people are losing your minds. You're grifting. You're pushing out these falsehoods for clout. For clout. And it's sad. It truly is sad. But as I continue on, we have people like Aaron Fisher. And everybody knows him now, right? He's gotten some pretty big following over the last couple years. I won't say it's because of me. It's partially because of me. I know. Go ahead, Aaron. You can get mad at me if you want for me saying that. But come on. I started calling you out a couple years ago, and it just so happens you started to gain a following. That's kind of unfortunate, but you did. You started gaining a following. But it's sad because your following is all based around toxicity and hatred. If you take a look at your videos, the only videos that do really, really well are the ones where you're bashing on James Gunn in the DCU. That's sad, actually. And look, I know that my videos generally do well, or whenever I talk about the Snyderverse. I get it. I'm not going to deny that. People try and think that that's a negative on me, but look, you lean into what works. Isn't that right, Aaron? Isn't that right? Anyways, you go to his YouTube, you go to his videos, and you just search Snyderverse, and you see the most damaging thing in the fandom. You see this. Just look at his thumbnails. The return confirmed. It's happening. Boom, restored. Restored closer than ever. Number 1, restored. You see things like that give false hope, which is possibly the most toxic aspect of that fandom, because it's giving false hope. It is giving this idea that something is happening that isn't actually happening. So when it doesn't happen, well, who are the people going to get mad at? They should get mad at Aaron. They should. But no, for some reason they get mad at James Gunn. They get mad at Warner Brothers. And they're going to get mad at Netflix when that doesn't happen. It's sad. It's pathetic. That's what it really is. Then we got our boy, Harsh Critics. Look, I promised I wasn't going to talk about this guy anymore. And honestly, I'm not going to pull up his videos and talk about what he talks about in his videos, because he's a disgusting human being. He truly is a disgusting human being. But very much the same as Aaron Fisher, where you just go to his videos, type in Snyderverse, and you see the same thing in his titles. The Snyderverse is being restored. Snyderverse back to life. Just confirm the Snyderverse. Snyderverse is back. He does the same type of toxic rhetoric that the Snyderverse is returning. But the thing that all of these people miss, all of them miss this, is that the DCU isn't going anywhere. It's moving forward. They all act like, oh, the DCU is dead on arrival. It's not going to stick around. It's gone. It's moving on. It's not going to be here. The problem is, it's going to be here for quite some time. Let's not forget that way back in June, there was a lot of talk about, first off, we know that Matt Reeves' Batman is going to be coming out. Well, that's not the DCU. That's DC Studios. So that's coming out. But then you have the Brave and the Bold, the DCU's Batman. You got Wonder Woman. You got Man of Tomorrow. You got Lantern, Supergirl, Clayface, multiple TV shows, Mr. Miracle, the Jimmy Olsen Show, and so much more that is in the works, that the DCU isn't going anywhere. Well, but Slav, anything can stop it. Anything could, one failure could put an end to it. And you're not wrong. The difference is the expectations from a studio side are not nearly as high as the expectations were for the DCEU 10 years ago, because they understand the industry. They understand what is going on with the industry right now. These superhero movies aren't making billions and billions of dollars like they were 10 years ago. So they understand, okay, we have to make this much money. We have to spend this much money. We can only spend this to make this. They understand that. Whereas 10 years ago, they knew if they spent this much, they needed to make closer to $1 billion. But nowadays, they're like, okay, we have to only spend this much, and we're going to make 600. We're going to make 500. We're going to make 400. We're going to make 700. Because that's the norm. That's pretty much what you're looking at for these superhero films. And the TV shows are a big part of it as well, because it's going to keep it in your mind. You're going to think, hey, I'm going on HBO Max. Oh, look, there's a superhero show. I didn't know. What is that? Let's check it out. and it's going to keep DC in the conversation. That's a big part of it. You know, I also love to see when fans of DC, the current DC, of DC Studios, the DCU, they simply ask, why are Snyder fans still in denial of Superman's success? Because Superman was a success, which is why the DCU has such a hopeful future. They just ask, are they inherently stupid? It's true, they really are inherently stupid, because they want to find a way, any way possible, to showcase that Superman was a failure just because they're in denial, just because they can't accept the fact that what they want is in the past. And it's really, really sad. But I am going to leave you with this, guys. This, which I think is probably a great little video. Let's see. Let me reload it here. This guy is great. Hits it right on the head. And here we go.
Gonna have to stay mad because Superman just launched with 13 million views on HBO Max, the biggest movie debut the streaming service has seen since Barbie. And I really just don't understand what there is to hate. It is Superman media winning, so why are we not enjoying this? But no, some people are taking this time, and we've got this achievement, or Superman crossing over into television with Lex Luthor making an appearance on Peacemaker, as a chance to try to hate on the James Gunn DC universe. Homeboy said, your Lex lost to Superman and got arrested, while mine killed Superman and broke out of Arkham. There's levels to this game. Do you not understand what this logic does to the conversation? Because by this logic, to hate on James Gunn's Lex Luthor losing to Superman, do you not in turn have to hate on Henry Cavill's Superman because he got killed by Lex Luthor, whereas the James Gunn Superman won? I mean, come on, guys. At a time like this, DC is winning right now. If you're a DC fan, you should be happy about James Gunn's Superman's success. Not gonna lie, though, I can't even...
I'll leave it there, because then he goes on and on about how he doesn't like Man of Steel, and well, I love Man of Steel. I mean, come on, you have to love Man of Steel. Man of Steel is an excellent movie, at least in my opinion. But look, guys, I'd love to hear what you have to say about all of this. What do you think about the Snyder cult and their culture and their hatred for DC? Do you think it's kind of getting out of hand at this point? Because I talk about this a lot. I do. But I just thought it was interesting because right now they have this concept, this idea that the DCU is not moving forward. They use words like Snyderverse restored, or the DCU is dying, or this or that, and they act like Superman is a failure, or they act like what Zack Snyder is doing on Instagram means that things are coming back, but we know that just isn't true. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit that ring-a-lingy-dingy bell thingy-majiggy. I don't know what I'm saying there. Hit that bell to get notifications when I upload a new video. With all that said, guys, I'll catch you all later.